What would you do if you discovered your husband booked a romantic trip to Rome with his mistress? Most women would confront him at home. But I bought the seat right next to her. What happened at 35,000 feet will blow your mind. It was 2:47 a.m. when my phone lit up the darkness. I wasn't even supposed to be awake, but insomnia had become my unwelcome companion these past few months. Something felt off about my marriage to James, but I couldn't put my finger on it. The notification sound made my heart skip. American Express alert. Strange. We rarely use that card except for emergencies. I squinted at the screen and my blood turned to ice. Thank you for your business class purchase. Flight AA-127 to Rome. 2 passengers. Departure March 15th. 2 passengers. James and whom my hands started shaking as I opened the email. There it was, black and white. James Mitchell and Laura Stevens. Seats 12A and 12B, window and middle seat. Business class. Rome. James was lying next to me, snoring peacefully, completely unaware that his secret just landed in my lap at nearly 3 a.m. Rome, the city he promised to take me to for our 10th anniversary. The trip that kept getting postponed because of work, because of money, because of 1,000 excuses that suddenly made perfect sense. I sat there in the dark, staring at that email, feeling my entire world crumble in slow motion. Laura Stevens. I knew that name. She worked at his company, the pretty blonde from accounting who always seemed to laugh a little too hard at his jokes during office parties. My mind raced back through the past 6 months. The late meetings, the weekend conferences, the password changes on his phone, the way he'd started working out again, the new cologne. God, I'd been so naive. I quietly slipped out of bed and tiptoed to the bathroom. In the mirror, I looked at the woman I'd become. 34 years old, married for 8 years, and apparently completely blind to my husband's double life. But as I stood there, something shifted inside me. The initial shock was giving way to something else. Something colder, something more calculating. If James thought he could just waltz off to Rome with his mistress, while I sat at home like a fool, he had another thing coming. I wasn't going to confront him. I wasn't going to scream, or cry, or beg. No, I was going to do something much, much better. I was going to give them a trip they'd never forget. Because here's the thing about American Express alerts. They don't just show you what was bought, they show you everything. Flight numbers, seat assignments, departure times, and seat 12C, the aisle seat right next to Laura Stevens, it was still available. I spent the next 3 hours sitting in my kitchen laptop, diving deep into the digital breadcrumbs of my husband's betrayal. The American Express account revealed everything. Dinner reservations at Le Bernardin, hotel bookings in Chicago, weekend getaways I knew nothing about. The trail went back 7 months. 7 months of lies wrapped up in business trips and client meetings. But here's what really got me. The sheer arrogance of it all. He'd been using our joint credit card, our money, to wine and dine another woman. I called my best friend Grace at 6 a.m. She picked up on the first ring. "Emma, what's wrong?" "James is cheating on me," I said, my voice eerily calm. "And I have proof." The silence on the other end spoke volumes. Then Grace said the words that changed everything. "What are you going to do about it?" That's when it hit me. I wasn't just going to do something. I was going to do something spectacular. I pulled up the airline website. Flight AA-127 to Rome, March 15th. There it was. Seat 12C, available for purchase. But as I sat there with my finger hovering over the buy button, I realized this wasn't just about catching them in the act. This was about taking back control of my life. I made a list, not a grocery list, not a to-do list, a war plan. First, I called my divorce attorney. Yes, at 7 a.m., that's what retainer fees are for. "Sarah, it's Emma Mitchell. I need you to prepare papers. Adultery. I have evidence." Emma, slow down. What kind of evidence? credit card statements, hotel receipts, and by next week I'll have photos. Second, I called my accountant. Joint accounts needed protection. Assets needed documentation. If James thought he could just walk away with half of everything while spending our money on his girlfriend, he was about to learn otherwise. Third, and this was the beautiful part, I bought that ticket. Seat 12C, right behind the happy couple. But I wasn't done. Oh no, I was just getting started. I spent the morning researching Laura Stevens, LinkedIn profile, Facebook posts, Instagram stories. She was 28, divorced, no kids, worked in accounting for 3 years, and apparently had no idea she was dating a married man. That's right. The photos she posted, the restaurant check-ins, the weekend trips. She tagged them all as single adventures or girls' trips with mysterious unnamed companions. James had been lying to both of us. By noon, I had a plan that would make Sun Tzu proud. I wasn't just going to confront them. I was going to orchestrate the most epic confrontation in aviation history. And the best part, they'd never see me coming. Because when you're sitting in 12C and they're in 12A and 12B, you're not just a passenger. You're the director of their very own in-flight nightmare. The next 5 days were the most calculated of my entire life. While James went about his routine, humming in the shower and being extra sweet at breakfast, I was quietly dismantling his world piece by piece. I opened my own checking account, transferred exactly half of our savings. Legally, it was mine anyway. Then, I did something that would make him panic later. I moved our joint emergency fund to a separate account with my name only. But the real masterpiece, I hired a private investigator. Mrs. Mitchell, Detective Rodriguez said during our coffee meeting, "Are you sure you want to go through with this? Catching them in Rome could get complicated." "I'm not catching them in Rome," I smiled. "I'm catching them at 35,000 feet, where there's no escape." I spent Tuesday shopping for the perfect outfit. Not revenge dress shopping, strategic warfare shopping. I needed to look powerful, untouchable, and completely in control. Hugo Boss, red blazer, black slacks. The kind of outfit that says I own this situation without saying a word. Wednesday, I bought a pen camera. Tiny, undetectable, perfect for recording conversations in cramped airplane seats. Thursday was for rehearsals. I practiced my lines in the mirror. What do you say to your cheating husband when he's trapped in a metal tube 7 miles above the Atlantic? "Hi, honey, fancy seeing you here." Too casual. "James, we need to talk." Too obvious. "Excuse me, I think you're in my husband's seat." Perfect. Friday morning, James kissed me goodbye like any other day. "I'll miss you, babe. This Chicago conference is going to be brutal." Chicago. He was still lying to my face even as his Rome boarding pass sat in his jacket pocket. "I'll miss you too," I said, handing him his coffee. "Have a safe flight." He had no idea it would be the last normal conversation we'd ever have. That afternoon, I packed my bag. Not for a European vacation. For war. The pen camera went in my purse. Divorce papers went in my carry-on. A copy of every single credit card statement went in my laptop bag. But you know what? I packed last a small bottle of champagne, because when you're about to blow up your cheating husband's life at 35,000 feet, you might as well toast to your freedom. Grace called me that evening. "Emma, are you absolutely sure about this? There's got to be an easier way." "Grace?" I said, checking my boarding pass one final time. "Some things are worth doing right." And this is going to be beautiful. Saturday morning arrived. James had already left for what he thought was his romantic getaway. I put on my red blazer, grabbed my luggage, and headed to JFK Airport. Seat 12C was waiting for me, and so was the surprise of James Mitchell's lifetime. JFK Airport Terminal 8, business class check-in. I arrived 2 hours early, not because I needed to, but because I wanted to watch them. Study their body language. See how they acted when they thought no one was looking. At 2:30 p.m., I spotted them near the gate. James looked relaxed, confident. He was wearing the navy blazer I bought him for Christmas. The irony wasn't lost on me. Laura was prettier in person than in her LinkedIn photos. Blonde hair designer handbag, the kind of effortless elegance that comes with being 28 and having no mortgage payments. They were holding hands, laughing, planning their romantic Roman adventure, while his wife sat 50 feet away invisible behind oversized sunglasses and a Wall Street journal. Now boarding business class passengers. This was it. I hung back, letting them board first. I needed them settled comfortable, completely unsuspecting. Row 12. There they were. James in 12A window seat. Laura in 12B middle seat. They were already sharing champagne toasting to their getaway. I walked up to row 12, placed my carry-on in the overhead bin, and sat down in 12C, the aisle seat, right next to Laura. For about 30 seconds, nobody said anything. James was looking out the window. Laura was scrolling through her phone. Neither of them had noticed me yet. Then James turned around to grab something from his bag. Our eyes met. I watched the color drain from his face in real time. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Pure, undiluted panic. "Hi, James," I said, calmly fastening my seatbelt. "Fancy seeing you here." Laura looked confused, glancing between James and me. "James, who is this?" "Laura," I extended my hand with a smile. "I'm Emma, James's wife." The champagne glass slipped from her fingers. What happened next was the most beautiful 60 seconds of my life. James started stammering. "Emma, I can explain. This isn't what it looks like." "Really?" I pulled out my phone, scrolling through the credit card statements. "Because it looks like a romantic getaway to Rome, charged to our joint American Express card, the same card that paid for your hotel in Chicago last month, and the weekend in Miami, and that lovely dinner at Le Bernardin." Laura's face went white. "James, you told me you were divorced." "Divorced?" I laughed. "Honey, we're not even separated. In fact, we're having dinner tonight, in Rome. All three of us, apparently." The flight attendant Morgan approached with more champagne. "Would anyone like a refill?" "Actually," I said, handing her my credit card, "I'd like to buy champagne for the entire business class cabin. We're celebrating." "Celebrating what?" Morgan asked cheerfully. "New beginnings," I said, looking directly at James. "My husband is about to start a very new chapter in his life." That's when I pulled out the envelope. Divorce papers, signed, sealed, and ready for delivery. "James, you have two choices. Sign these papers right now, agree to my terms, or I start sharing our family photos with everyone on this plane, starting with the lovely couple in 4B who keep looking over here." His hands were shaking as he took the papers. "Emma, please. Can we just talk about this when we get home?" "Home," I smiled. "James, you bought a one-way ticket to Rome with another woman. You don't have a home anymore." The plane started its taxi to the runway, and James Mitchell finally realized he was trapped at 35,000 feet with nowhere to run. The plane reached cruising altitude, and James still hadn't signed the papers. He kept looking around like he was searching for an escape hatch. Laura had gone completely silent, staring at her hands like she wished she could disappear. That's when I decided to up the ante. "You know what, James? I think our fellow passengers deserve to know what kind of man sits in 12A. I stood up and activated the pen camera in my blazer. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, loud enough for business class to hear me, "I'd like to propose a toast." Morgan, the flight attendant, looked confused but intrigued. The couple in 4B stopped their conversation. Even the businessman in 8A looked up from his laptop. "To my husband, James," I raised my champagne glass, "who thought he could take his mistress to Rome on our joint credit card while telling me he was at a business conference in Chicago. You could hear a pin drop in that cabin." James grabbed my arm. "Emma, sit down, please." "Oh, I'm just getting started." I pulled out my laptop. "Laura, sweetie, did you know that James has been married for 8 years? Or that he used our wedding fund to pay for your weekend in Miami?" Laura's voice was barely a whisper. "I had no idea. He told me he was divorced. He showed me papers." "Papers," I laughed. "What papers?" She pulled out her phone, scrolling through photos. "He showed me his decree. Said his ex-wife was crazy and took everything." I looked at the photo she handed me. It was a fake divorce document. completely fabricated. James had created an entire fictional ex-wife to justify his behavior. This is next-level manipulation, I said, showing the fake papers to the cabin. He didn't just cheat on me. He created a whole alternate reality for you. That's when something unexpected happened. A woman from row 6 stood up. She was about 40, well-dressed, confident. "Excuse me," she said, walking toward us. "Did you say James Mitchell?" James looked like he'd seen a ghost. "I'm Maya Rodriguez. I'm Laura's supervisor at Henderson and Associates." The plot just got thicker. "Laura," Maya continued, "you told HR you were taking vacation days for a girls' trip to Rome, but this doesn't look like a girls' trip." Laura's career was imploding in real time. "Maya, I can explain. Can you, because dating married clients is grounds for immediate termination. And James, your company contracts with ours. This is a conflict of interest violation." James was now facing divorce and a potential lawsuit. But I wasn't done. I pulled out the real bombshell, the private investigator's report. James remembered Detective Rodriguez. "He's been very busy this week. Turns out Laura isn't your first affair. There's also Michelle from your gym, and Sarah from the coffee shop near your office, and that redhead from the hotel bar in Denver." Laura's face went from pale to green. "You're telling me there are others?" "Honey," I said gently, "you're not the other woman. You're just another woman." James finally cracked. "Fine, fine. I'll sign your damn papers. Just stop talking." He grabbed the pen with shaking hands and signed every single page. Full custody of assets, alimony, the house, the cars, everything. As he signed the last page, I pulled out my phone and took a photo. Divorce papers signed at 35,000 feet. That's definitely a first. The captain's voice came over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've begun our descent into Rome." Perfect timing, because James Mitchell's life had just crashed and burned somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. Leonardo da Vinci Airport, Rome. As we taxied to the gate, the cabin was dead silent. Everyone in business class had witnessed the most dramatic divorce in aviation history. James sat slumped in his window seat, staring at nothing. His Roman holiday had turned into his personal apocalypse. Laura was crying quietly, probably realizing her job, her reputation, and her future were all circling the drain. Maya was on her phone, undoubtedly calling HR to report the incident. And me? I felt lighter than I had in months. The seatbelt sign turned off and passengers started gathering their belongings. I stood up, smoothed my red blazer, and grabbed my carry-on. "James," I said, looking down at the man I'd been married to for 8 years. "Enjoy Rome. I hear it's beautiful this time of year." He looked up at me with defeated eyes. "Emma, what happens now? Now. You figure out how to explain to your boss why your personal drama just destroyed $1 million client relationship. You figure out how to pay for a lawyer with the credit cards I'm about to cancel, and you figure out how to rebuild your life with absolutely nothing." I turned to Laura. "Sweetie, a word of advice. When a man lies to his wife for months, he'll lie to you too." "You dodged a bullet!" As I walked off that plane, something magical happened. The other passengers started applauding. Not mocking applause, genuine supportive applause from strangers who had just witnessed a woman take back her power in the most spectacular way possible. Morgan, the flight attendant, high-fived me at the door. "That was incredible," she whispered. "I've never seen anything like it." I walked through the terminal with my head held high, pulling my suitcase behind me. At baggage claim, my phone buzzed with text messages. "Grace, did you really do it?" "Sarah, my lawyer, signed papers received. This is the cleanest divorce case I've ever seen. My accountant, all accounts secured. You're officially financially independent." But the best message came from an unknown number. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Maya Rodriguez. I wanted to apologize for my employee's behavior and to offer you something. My consulting firm needs someone with your strategic thinking. Would you be interested in a job? Starting salary is twice what James makes." I laughed out loud in the middle of the airport. 3 months later, I'm living in a beautiful apartment overlooking Central Park. I'm working for Maya's company, helping other women navigate messy divorces and workplace harassment. And James last, I heard he's living in a studio apartment in Queens, taking the subway to his new job at a discount insurance company. Laura got fired, obviously. Maya doesn't mess around when it comes to professional ethics. The pen camera footage went viral on social media. Woman serves divorce papers at 35,000 feet, has over 10 million views. I get messages every day from women thanking me for showing them that you don't have to accept betrayal quietly. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's taking back your life and flying higher than you ever thought possible. Rome was supposed to be James's romantic escape. Instead, it became the city where I learned to soar. And you know what I'm planning to go back next year. This time I'm buying first class. If this story inspired you to take control of your own life, drop a comment below and tell me about it. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life drama stories that prove truth really is stranger than fiction. Because sometimes the best seat on the plane isn't the window seat or the aisle seat. It's the seat where you finally decide to put yourself first.